Hey, yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Adrian, and we have less than a month until the New York Giants get to draft their players. The 2025 NFL draft is less than a month away, and today we're going to go over some of, we're doing a mock draft. We're doing a Giants mock draft. We're going to pick all the picks. First, we're going to talk about the needs. Let's just hop right into it. It should be a fun time. So, this is what I consider as the draft needs based on what I've heard and what I've read from people around the league and in the Giants organization, a lot of what Joe Shane wants. So draft needs. So I think one of their biggest needs right now is a second D tackle next to Dexter Lawrence. I mean, right now they have Nacho still. He's been the guy there, but I still kind of think he's going to get cut. I mean, maybe not, but they'll save like $5 million, I believe, if they cut him before this season, so I still think that's a very real possibility. They signed Robert Harrison. Was that his name? Wait, real quick. Roy Robertson Harris. They signed Roy Robertson Harris. They have Jordan Riley. They have Elijah Chapman and DJ Davidson, and they brought in Jeremiah Ledbetter too. I don't know. I don't think any of those guys really ring bell. If this D tackle class is very deep, so I think they really want to come out of this with a D tackle. Next, of course, quarterback of the future. I mean, we signed Russell Wilson, we signed Jameis Winston, we got Tommy DeVito still, but Russ is only here for a year. Plus, he's older. Winston, he signed a backup contract. Let's be honest. And Tommy DeVito is Tommy DeVito. Like, quarterback of the future is a very real need for this team, and that's why Shedeur Sanders has been linked to the Giants so heavily. Next, I also think we need wide receiver depth. I mean, we got Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, and Wandale Robinson. That's a good starting trio right there. But after them, it's really just a giant question mark. I mean, we have Jalen Hyatt. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't proven anything. I mean, maybe with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, who'll actually break out this year, hopefully. But I mean, other than him, it's just a gigantic question mark behind them. There's nobody that's proven. So I think depth is something that they're going to target. And then, of course, pretty much every spot on the O line. We have the starters. We have John Runyon, Greg Van Roten, and JMS there on the inside. And then we got, of course, Andrew Thomas and Illuminor on the outside. So we have our starters set, but after that, it's kind of a question mark. I mean, yeah, on the inside, Stinney and Izudo, Kubis, and Schlotman are probably going to be duking it out. I do like Aaron Stinney as like a backup option. Izudo maybe can still develop into one, although he's running out of time. Kubas, he looked kind of good at times. He's young, and Schlotman was hurt the whole time. I think inside line, they're going to want to draft somebody preferably high, probably to eventually replace Greg Van Roten because he's 36. He's not getting any younger. He could fall off at any moment. And then tackle, Andrew Thomas, obviously, he's a stud there, but he has been very injury prone lately. And then you got a Luminor, who I believe just turned 30. So, I mean, he's solid, but also not getting younger. He still might have some years in him, though. Tackle, I'm not too worried about. That's why I put depth instead of future, like I did for the inside. But still, after those two guys, it's just a bunch of question marks. They signed James Hudson to be the swing tackle guy. He's not like a great option, but I mean, I guess he's fine if Thomas and Illuminor don't get hurt. And then Stone Forsythe they signed to for competition, and then of course we have Evan Neal, who they might even switch to guard. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Maybe they'll trade him. But those are the draft needs that I think they're going to try to address in this draft. So without further ado, let's get into it. And the first pick, number 3 in the first round, the New York Giants. I think these are the 4 most likely candidates. I honestly would be shocked if anyone else other than one of these 4 guys is the pick here. Um, Cam Ward should be going to the Titans. If he drops, that'd be cool, but I highly doubt that he would. And even if the Titans don't take him, the Browns would. So I'm not going to put Cam Ward there. So other than these 4 guys, there's nobody else, man. It's the quarterback. If they go quarterback route, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. They've been tied to him throughout the entire offseason. They did bring in Russell Wilson, though, and that makes it a little questionable. Like, how locked in are they with this guy? It's hard to tell because it could be all smoke and mirrors, or they could legitimately like this guy. So he's a tantalizing prospect for third overall, if he's even there. I mean, the Browns could take him too. Um, Abdul Carter, top left, widely considered as the number one option and in this entire draft, edge rusher. We don't necessarily need an edge rusher. We have a couple guys there, but Abdul Carter, I mean, top dog in the draft. Can you really say no to him? I don't know. Travis Hunter, second Colorado guy on the list. I mean, you know about Travis Hunter, corner and wide receiver combo, Heisman winner. He's a stud at two different positions. Will he play both of them in the league? Who knows? If the Giants drafted him, which is a real possibility, if the Giants drafted him, which position would he play? Would he play both? We do not know at this time. We don't really need a corner or a receiver necessarily, but I did mention, starting wise at least, but I did mention, we could use wide receiver depth. Travis Hunter would probably start next to Malik Neighbors at receiver, quite often play instead of Darius Slayton, I would assume. That would be a hell of a duo right there. And then on defense, he could play next to Paulson Adebo probably on the back end. And Tay Banks would have to take a little back seat, unfortunately. So, I don't know. Travis Hunter's a great option. And then, of course, you got the D tackle out of Michigan, Mason Graham. Did I say his name right? I want to look that up real quick to make sure I am not ridiculous right now. I just typed in Mason Rudolph. What the heck? Mason Graham, yeah. So, yeah. And then the fourth option there, Mason Graham. He's only really an option here because the Giants, he actually fits like a need at the moment, like a top need for them at D tackle. Like if Mason Graham was drafted, he would easily sit next to Dexter Lawrence and be that top dog with him and be one of the best D lines in the league right now. But I also he's kind of like clearly the fourth option out of these four guys, in my opinion, because Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are just way better talents. And then if they're going to go quarterback, they're going to take Shedeur Sanders. So those three just seem to have a much better option, in my opinion, to get drafted to the Giants than Mason Graham does right now. But who are we actually going to draft? I think it's going to be round 1, pick 1, edge out of Penn State, Abdul Carter. So Abdul Carter, he's a 21-year-old junior edge out of Penn State. He's 6'3", 250. He ran a 4.48 in the 40. He's a Philly native, which makes things a little interesting. Like I said earlier, he's arguably, I guess, the best player in the draft. I think he is. Some people might say Travis Hunter. Something to note about him, he switched from linebacker to defensive end this year. So this was his first year at the edge position, and he excelled with 12 sacks, was an absolute menace to the opposing quarterbacks during this year. His highlight reel is absolutely insane. I highly suggest going and watching it. He's just getting to the quarterback and stopping runs in the backfield. He's an absolute motor, Ben, in the backfield. Getting to the backfield, rather. He's extremely explosive off the line. He beats tackles before the play even starts. I mean, if we drafted Abdul Carter, round 1, pick 3, theoretically he could start out as a pass rush specialist, splitting reps with like maybe Chauncey Golston behind Burns and Tibbs, and take over for Tibbs next year, because Thibodeau is in a contract year. But also Abdul Carter is so talented. If we drafted him 3rd overall, I would not be surprised if Thibodeau gets relegated to the number 3 spot, and Abdul Carter and Brian Burns are wrecking the field together. That'd be absolutely amazing. I think this would be a fantastic pick. There is a semi-decent chance that the Browns take Abdul Carter and that we don't even get an option to pick him at 3. That's definitely a chance, because I think right now for the Browns, it's pretty much the same options as the Giants right now. They're picking between Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders. And a lot of the fans base wants Abdul Carter to pair with Myles Garrett. I mean, hell, I would too. But I right now, as it stands, I kind of think they're going to pick Shedeur Sanders because they don't have anybody else there unless they're really planning on trading for Kirk Cousins, which is he even better than Shedeur Sanders right now? I don't know. That he didn't look too good last year before he got benched. So plus they'd have to trade for him, right? Give up another asset. I guess it depends on how they see Shedeur Sanders. But yeah, Abdul Carter, round one, pick 3. He immediately makes this defense just explosive. I think it would be really fun. Next, in the second round, top of the second round, I think we're going to be looking at the D tackles. Now, I know some of you guys are going to be like, dude, we don't have a quarterback after Russ. What are you talking about? We got to take Jackson Dart. We got to take, I don't know, maybe there's some Jalen Milroe fans in there. No, I don't think that this team, if they're not taking Shedeur Sanders, number 3 overall, I don't think they're going to be taking anybody at the top of the second round either. The only guy realistically to take there would be Jackson Dart if he doesn't go in the bottom of the first. And they don't seem all that interested in Jackson Dart. I mean, I've seen a few articles saying that they are, but I mean, Shea Tierney, I think, was the only guy that went to the Ole Miss Pro Day. Like, Joe Shane wasn't there, Brian Daboll wasn't there, Mike Kafka wasn't there. Like, how interested are you really if only your QB coach is the only one that's going there? I mean, somewhat interested, I suppose, but I don't think. I think they're going to pick somebody else here. And D tackle, with the amount of talent on this team, I think D tackle is the realistic option. And Tyleik Williams is an absolute stud. Round 2, pick 34, D tackle out of Ohio State. Tyleik Williams, he's a 22-year-old senior, 6'3", 334 pounds. He ran a 4.68 40 from Virginia. And the dude is he's an athlete at the D tackle position. Like, this guy is a small guy in a big man's body, pretty much. He's a stud. He's a good run defender that can also excel getting to the passer with time in an NFL system. He's very explosive, but it is noted that he can struggle with stamina during longer drives, so he might be a guy that needs to like get pulled out of drives here and there for some spot starts. But I mean, okay, Elijah Chapman, let's go, hop in there. I think if we pick this guy Tyleik Williams in the top of the second, I think he would immediately be battling with Roy Robertson. I forgot his name again. Roy Robertson Harris. Yeah, Roy Robertson Harris. I got used to that guy's name. It's a long one. But I think Tyleik Williams would immediately be duking it out with Roy Robertson Harris and Nacho for those starting reps next to Dex. And honestly, I think there's a good chance he would win the starting battle between those guys. And then Dex and Tyleik Williams would be a formidable duo on the inside. And if the draft goes like this and we got Abdul Carter too, like, can you imagine that? Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Tyleik Williams, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Chauncey Gold. Like, we have an absolute beast of a defensive line at this point. Like, I literally think it would be battling for the top of the league D-line right there if we got Tyleik Williams and Abdul Carter 1-2. That'd be amazing. Yeah, Tyleik Carter, he's fun. He's a fun guy. He's a good addition to the locker room, I think, too. He makes a lot of jokes. He says that he said that he used to play linebacker, but he switched to D tackle because he gained so much weight because he couldn't stay away from the cookies. I mean, come on. He sounds like the perfect guy to sit next to Dexter Lawrence. They'd love each other, I bet. And he would learn quite a bit from Dexter Lawrence, I would think as well. One thing I did want to note here for Tyleik Williams' pick, when I was doing the mock draft, they actually had Kenneth Grant, the D tackle out of Michigan, available in this position. If Kenneth Grant is available at the top of the second, first of all, the Giants would be sprinting to the podium. And second of all, something drastically wrong must have happened right before the draft for Kenneth Grant. Like, he must have got caught doing something he shouldn't have been doing for him to fall out of the first round, in my opinion. I highly doubt. Like, people have him getting drafted like in the middle of the first, not even like at the end of the first. Like, I'd be very surprised if Kenneth Grant drops out of the first round. But hey, I would definitely pick him if he did. But I didn't think it was a realistic option. That's why I switched it to Tyleek Williams, who I think is a great option himself too. But Kenneth Grant would be something. Um, yeah, so moving on to round 3, pick 65. This is a guy that the Giants seem to be extremely interested in, and that is the O lineman out of Purdue, Marcus Embo. He's a 21-year-old junior, 6'4", 300 pounds. He ran a 5.25. This guy's a former basketball player out of Wisconsin, the state, not the school. I mean, the school's in the state, but you get me. He's from Wisconsin. Um, he played guard and tackle quite effectively for Purdue throughout his career there. He shows true position flexibility with that. Most recently, he was playing right tackle. I guess the biggest downside for him, which, I mean, it's not even really that big of a downside in my opinion, but he does have shorter arms, shorter arm length for a tackle prospect. So most people project him to be a guard and or center in the league. Although I don't think he's ever played center, but he pretty much grades out as a good center if he just learns how to snap the ball. So most likely he is going to project as an inside lineman, but that works for the Giants, which is probably why they're looking at him so much. If we did draft him, I think he would probably be battling Stinney and Azudu for reps behind GVR and John Runyon. And he could realistically be starting as early as next year. I think it's a little early for him to beat out Greg Van Roten if he got drafted this year. He probably has some learning to do, get used to the NFL speed at the guard position and be able to pull and whatnot. But he's a very, very athletic, bigger guy. And I really do think if we drafted him, he'd be starting maybe before the end of the year, to be honest. Yeah, the Giants, like I said, they're very interested in this guy. He was one of the first guy. Him and Shedeur Sanders were the first two guys that they set up for their 30 visits when they bring the guys into the stadium to really see the whole organization. So clearly they're extremely interested in Marcus Embo, and this is a realistic spot for him to go to. He could go earlier. There's a couple other guys interested. I mean, the Eagles are interested in Marcus Embo, so hopefully they don't get him. But yeah, I really do think if he's on the board and for their first third round pick, I think he's going to be the Giants pick. Notice I haven't picked a quarterback yet. Well, that is about to change. Round 3, pick 99. I got the quarterback out of Louisville, Tyler Shough. I'm not a huge fan of this pick, but I do think this is the direction the Giants seem to be going. So, Tyler Shough, 25-year-old senior. You heard that right, 25. He will be 26 at the start of next year, or sometime during next year, maybe. He's 6'5", 219. He ran a 4.63. So, I mean, he fits the bill. He's a 7-year college player out of Arizona. He first started out as a freshman behind Justin Herbert at Oregon. And the next 6 years of his career, he spent pretty much injured every year between 3 years at Oregon and 3 years at Texas Tech. He did start quite a few games during that time, but he just missed like just about the same amount. And then his final year of eligibility, thanks to COVID, he transferred to Louisville and was finally able to stay on the field and really show what he can do. He threw for 3,195 yards, 23 touchdowns in 12 games. He seems to be probably the most pro-ready out of anyone in this draft, even the top guys, which I think you really should be if you've already been starting at a pretty high level for 7 years. But yeah, watching him play, he's got pretty solid mobile ability. He's got a solid arm, can make pretty much all the throws you need, and he can read defenses pretty well also. One of the only things that I noticed watching him a little bit was that he definitely seems to if the pass rushers are coming up and getting in his face, he can be prone to making just bad decisions. But I think that can be taught. I think that can be taught with time, especially if he's got New York's defense in this draft coming after him. He'll learn real quick in practice. Um, but yeah, if he was drafted to the Giants, I think he would definitely. I think he would beat out Tommy DeVito for the third spot behind Jameis Winston. And honestly, since he is so pro ready, and Russell Wilson's only on a 1 year deal, I think legitimately next year he will be in position to battle for a starting job on this team. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Tyler Shuck, but I can see why they would want him. And I will say Joe Shane personally went to Louisville's pro day to watch Tyler Shuck throw. So he's clearly pretty interested in Tyler Shuck. And I think outside of Shedeur Sanders, I really do think Tyler Shuck is the most realistic option for the Giants to draft at quarterback. His stock has been rising quite a bit since the combine too, so he could be gone by this point, but I think his age and his injury concerns will make it so that he should still be available at this point. I think he will be. Um, yeah, I will say I put a picture of Quinn Ewers up here because I'm a big Quinn Ewers fan. I know there's a lot of I know there's a lot of people that aren't, and that seems to kind of include Joe Shane. The reason I picked Tyler Shuck over Quinn Ewers was because, as I said earlier, Joe Shane went to Louisville's pro day. That was the exact same day that Texas was holding their pro day, and we had Shea Tierney, our QB coach, go to the Texas pro day. So clearly, Joe Shane favors Tyler Shuck over Quinn Ewers. So yeah, I would pick Quinn Ewers, but I'm trying to be realistic here. So Tyler Shuck is a New York Football Giant. Moving on to round 4, I have a little bit of a surprise, although I have seen a mock draft or two that have him going to the Giants, so maybe it shouldn't be that surprising. But round 4, pick 105. I got the Giants picking a corner out of Kansas, Kobe Bryant. Yes, that is his name. He is a 25-year-old senior, 6 foot 180, so relatively small. He ran a 4.53. Kobe Bryant is, it's kind of funny speaking of his name like this, but he's a very talented athlete who was a star in football, basketball, baseball, and track back in his hometown of Alabama. He was a starter as a freshman in Kansas's defense. He is an aggressive ball hawk, gets to that ball, gets interceptions. He's great at reading the quarterback, especially in zone schemes. He pretty much excels in zone. He played quite a bit of man, but he has size and speed concerns, so that's kind of why he's dropping in the draft and why he's available, at least in this mock draft, in the 4th round. Because with his size and speed at 6 foot 180, running a 4.53, people are concerned, and they're legitimate concerns. They're concerned that he's not going to be able to handle true NFL caliber X receivers on the outside, especially in man coverage, and that's a real concern. I mean, you got him going against somebody like DK Metcalf. Is he really going to be able to cover that guy? He's humongous and fast and strong. So those are legit concerns that Kobe Bryant will have to amend when he gets to the league. We'll see what he can do. I think if we do end up drafting somebody like Kobe Bryant, I think he would battle Cordell Flott for snaps behind the starters. So we have we have Paulson Adebo and Tay Banks, of course, starting at the outside spots, and then Drew Phillips did real nice at nickel. So we have those starting spots locked in. I don't think drafting Kobe Bryant would change that. But yeah, like I said, Cordell Flott was our main backup last year. I think Kobe Bryant, actually, he started for the most part last year. But Kobe Bryant would probably battle him for those snaps. I think he'd be a really good backup nickel whenever Drew Phillips needs rest, and pretty much let Cordell Flott handle the outside. And Kobe Bryant also would definitely be a fantastic special teamer. But yeah, in the future, I think he could really develop and be a guy for us. It's just can he cover those big guys? That's the big question mark about Kobe Bryant. But yeah, I like him a lot. Got him in the 4th round. We still have some needs we have to address. What are we going to do next? In the 5th round, we're going to draft, and you guys are going to hate this one, Giants fans. But round 5, pick 154, I am taking a wide receiver out of Tennessee. Yes, out of Tennessee, Dont'e Thornton. This is a guy with a lot of hype right now, but I still don't think he's going to go very early. Someone would have to really jump on the hype train to draft him in like the 3rd, maybe even 4th round. So I think 5th round's pretty realistic for him. But yeah, 22-year-old senior out of Tennessee. He's 6'5", 200 pounds. He ran a 4.3 lightning quick at the combine. Out of Bmore, the elephant in the room, right? Jalin Hyatt. So we already have a former Tennessee receiver that was supposed to be lightning in a bottle on our team in Jalin Hyatt. But the thing about Dont'e Thornton, he's bigger and he's much faster than Jalin Hyatt. Speed will keep defenders honest, right? Plus, Dont'e Thornton, he is fantastic at high pointing the ball. He's a good contested catch kind of guy. With his speed and his contested catches, he can pretty much take any ball to the house. He just the biggest knock on him. I guess there's 2 knocks. The biggest knock on him, I think, though, is that he really needs to learn more routes. Pretty much, if you watch his highlight reel, it's pretty much all just flies and posts, and that's it. That's all he ran. And if you talk to him in his interviews, he says that he will be able to learn all these new routes, but I mean, Jalin Hyatt hasn't produced. What makes us think Dont'e Thornton will? That's the big reason why he's on the board here and why I think people are not going to like this pick. The other downside about Dont'e Thornton is even in Tennessee's offense, he would disappear for long stretches of time where he just wouldn't get thrown to. Now, you can make the argument that that's because they had a freshman quarterback, Nico, that just wasn't all that great at reading the field maybe and finding Dont'e Thornton. Or you could make the argument that maybe Dont'e Thornton just isn't very good at his job. Like, he's a freak athlete, but maybe he's not a great receiver. That's what we're going to find out, and that's why I think a 5th-round pick makes a lot of sense for this guy, because you're essentially throwing a dart at the board and seeing if Dont'e Thornton works out. If we were to draft Dont'e Thornton, clearly he needs a lot of development. He would not supplant Darius Slayton or Wan'Dale Robinson, for that matter. So I think he could, though, battle somebody like Jalin Hyatt for that first receiver off the bench role. And if he gets in there, like if Darius Slayton needs a breather and Dont'e Thornton gets in there, I think he could really open up lanes for Malik Nabers, because Dont'e Thornton, with his speed, he needs to be accounted for in any scheme. And I think he could eventually be Darius Slayton's replacement. I mean, that's where Jalin Hyatt's supposed to be, and that didn't work out. This is another Tennessee guy, so I know, I get it, I understand. Like, Adrian, what are you talking about? We're not going to get another Tennessee guy. We went to that well already. Okay, fine. I grabbed somebody else just in case for you guys that hate that it's a Tennessee pick, and that's going to be Nasty Nick Nash out of San Diego State. Former quarterback turned receiver. That was an absolute stud for San Diego State. Nick Nash, I will say, he's pretty much mainly a slot receiver. So I suppose he could learn some other routes and play up when Slayton goes out. But realistically, Nick Nash with Wan'Dale Robinson, Wan'Dale is on a contract year now. And I really do think Nick Nash could be a better slot receiver than Wan'Dale. I like Wan'Dale a lot. I'm not trying to talk trash about him. But Nick Nash, he's got some sticky hands. He's a real good route runner. And as a former quarterback, he clearly knows how to read a defense very well, which is probably why he's a really good route runner. So I think Nick Nash could be that next fifth round. I mean, Puka Nacua went in the fifth round. I don't know if Nick Nash is quite as skilled as Puka Nacua, but I could see Nick Nash as a guy that could end up being like a damn near 1,000-yard receiver at the slot position for a team in the NFL. I don't know if it'll be the Giants, but I know that some of you guys don't want Dante Thornton, so I threw in Nick Nash there. And I'm kind of almost talking myself into switching it out to Nick Nash, just talking about him. Anyway, though, moving to, we do not have a sixth round pick, but we do have 2 seventh round picks, and I have a need still on the board, and we are about to address it right now with our first seventh round pick at pick 219 in the draft. We got tackle, the big tackle out of Florida, Brandon Crenshaw Dickson. Yeah, he's a 24-year-old senior tackle out of Florida, 6'7", 316. He ran a 5.33. Cali boy. Yeah, he's a big body tackle who had zero issue once he transferred from San Diego State to Florida and switched between right and left tackle multiple times during that time. He's very durable. He never misses any snaps. He has all the stamina in the world. Like, this guy would be fantastic if he can figure it out. But there is a reason why he is available in the 7th round, right? Because, I mean, the way I just talked about him, you're like, okay, why isn't he like a 2nd round pick? Well, it's because of his combine tests. He struggled a little bit with the combine, and it shows a guy that could struggle with the NFL caliber speed rushers getting around him on the edge. So, with time, he could develop into a capable starter, possibly, or at least a swing tackle. I think, realistically, if we drafted Brandon Crenshaw Dickson, I think he would be able to... He'd be battling Evan Neal and Stone Forsythe, most likely, at tackle for a couple of the final O-line spots on the roster. No guarantee he makes the roster as a 7th round tackle. But, I mean, if you beat out Evan Neal, that'd be kind of funny. 1st round tackle, 7th round tackle. But yeah, like I said, he's a guy that could be maybe a future swing tackle even as early as next year if James Hudson doesn't work out for us and Crenshaw Dickson looks solid. So I like Crenshaw Dickson. I thought that was a good pick. There were a couple other guys that I was looking for here, though. And I will say the pick that I actually made when I did this mock draft was not even a tackle because the tight end, Luke Lachey, did I say his name right? Luke? I think his name's Luke Lachey. Let me look that up right quick for you. I'm pretty sure it's Luke Lachey, the tight end out of Iowa. Yeah, Luke Lachey. Yeah, the tight end out of Iowa. He was available in this draft, and he's a pretty good tight end out of Iowa. He does everything pretty solid. So I picked him, but for the life of me, I don't know why he would be available in the 7th round. This is a guy that could go in like the 4th, like the top of the 4th, maybe even 3rd rounder with how solid he is. He could be a starting tight end. Not like an exciting one that is making crazy like George Kittle plays, but he'd be a solid tight end out the gate. I think he can do everything pretty solid. So Luke Lachey, if he's there at in the 7th round, even though we don't have a need at tight end, I think the Giants would probably pull him, but I just don't expect him to be there. So I went with the Florida tackle. Now, last pick in the draft, it's pretty much just best player available at this point because all my needs were met. So I went with somebody that was just sitting there waiting for me to pick him. Round 7, pick 246. We're picking a running back out of Clemson, Phil Mafah, 22-year-old senior, 6'1", 234 with 4.55 speed. He's like kind of close to Brandon Jacobs type, big, out of Georgia. He's a big, strong runner who he actually has some patience as well. He like waits for lanes to open and then just explodes through the line, through arm tackles, and he actively seeks out contact when he gets there. He's an absolute unit. His stiff arm puts people in the dirt. Arm tackles aren't going to bring him down. On the goal line, he is a very difficult back to stop. He had quite a few of his touchdowns came from the goal line when they're just like, "Hey, finish it off, Phil." Um, the reason why he's available though, down here in the 7th round, well, 4.55 speed. He's not really going to outrun anybody in the open field, and he's not very elusive. He's not going to be breaking ankles or breaking tackles, other than with his when he when he puts his shoulder down. You know what I'm saying? So, plus he's not really used in the pass game either, which is huge for today's football. So. And also, he could use a little coaching up on his blocking. He seems to occasionally just miss blocking when he's supposed to be blocking people. So he needs some coaching on that. I think if we drafted Phil Maffa, he'd be battling with Eric Gray and Turbo for the snaps. Uh, Tyrone Tracy's clearly our number one, and Devin Singletary is light years ahead of pretty much any freshman or rookie rather that we would be drafting, not named anyone in the first round. But yeah, Phil Maffa, I think realistically, if we drafted him, he could be used for short yardage and possible goal line plays. I mean, we're not going to want to take Tracy or Singletary off the field much, but I think they could give snaps to Phil Maffa here and there. I think he'd beat out Eric Gray. He's way different than Turbo Millers, so they're damn near playing different positions. So I don't know if you could say he'd beat Turbo out, but yeah, as a short yardage goal line back, Phil Maffa would be a fantastic addition to this team, and it's realistic that he would be available in the 7th. Now, if another team wants a big hammer of a back, then he could go earlier than this too. Not saying he's going to be on the board for sure, but if he is, I think the Giants would do well to draft him. He has the real potential to become the hammer alongside Tracy. It'd be kind of similar. In my head, it's kind of similar to like Ahmad Bradshaw, Brandon Jacobs days. And even with Singletary, you could even add Derek Ward in there. We're gonna have lightning, thunder, and flash back together. But yeah, so that's the draft. That's everybody. Let me know what you think. If you agree or disagree with any of these picks, who you have in your sights for the Giants right now, and anything else that you might think of during draft time, because it's coming, it's going to be here, and I am excited to see, hopefully, the Giants get better, because I don't know, I get excited all the time. They do this to me every year. Hopefully we can win some games, right? But yeah, until next time, guys. Peace.